Robert Hofstadter was a very smart and curious man. He was a scientist who studied tiny things called atoms. Atoms are so small that you cannot see them, but they are everywhere. Everything around us, like the air we breathe, the water we drink, and even our bodies, is made of atoms. Robert wanted to know more about atoms. He wanted to understand what is inside them and how they work. This is the story of his life and his amazing discoveries. Robert was born on February 5, 1915, in New York City. His family was not very rich, but they valued education and learning. From a young age, Robert was very curious. He loved to ask questions and figure out how things worked. He was especially interested in math and science. He was very good at these subjects and enjoyed solving problems. When he grew older, he decided to study physics. Physics is the science that studies how things move, how energy works, and how the universe behaves. Robert wanted to learn everything he could about the world. Robert went to college at City College of New York. He worked very hard and did well in his classes. After finishing college, he went to Princeton University, which is one of the most famous schools in the world. At Princeton, he studied more about physics and did research. He learned about atoms, energy, and the tiny particles that make up everything in the universe. After many years of hard work, he earned his PhD. A PhD is the highest degree you can get in a subject. It means you are an expert in that field. After finishing his studies, Robert worked at different places. He worked at the University of Pennsylvania and then returned to Princeton. Later, he moved to Stanford University in California. Stanford is a very famous school, especially for science. Robert liked working at Stanford because it had great tools and machines for studying atoms. He stayed there for many years and did some of his most important work. Robert was very interested in atoms. He wanted to know what is inside them. Atoms have a center, called the nucleus. The nucleus is very small, but it is very important. It is like the heart of the atom. Robert wanted to study the nucleus and understand its structure. He had an idea. He thought he could use tiny particles called electrons to study the nucleus. Electrons are very small particles that orbit around the nucleus. Robert thought that if he could shoot electrons at the nucleus, he could learn more about it. When the electrons hit the nucleus, they would bounce off in different ways. By studying how they bounced, Robert could learn about the shape and structure of the nucleus. Robert built a special machine to shoot electrons at the nucleus. The machine was very big and was called an accelerator. The accelerator made the electrons go very, very fast. When the fast electrons hit the nucleus, they bounced off, and Robert studied how they moved. He learned many new things. He discovered that the nucleus is not just a simple ball. It is made of smaller parts called protons and neutrons. Protons have a positive charge, and neutrons have no charge. Together, protons and neutrons make up the nucleus. But Robert did not stop there. He also discovered that protons and neutrons are not simple either. They have even smaller parts inside them. He found that protons and neutrons have a center, and around the center, there is a cloud of tiny particles called mesons. This was a very important discovery. Before Robert, no one knew that protons and neutrons had such a complex structure. His work helped scientists understand atoms better and opened the door to new discoveries in physics. In 1961, Robert won a very big prize for his work. He won the Nobel Prize in Physics. The Nobel Prize is one of the most important prizes in the world. It is given to people who do amazing things in science, peace, literature, and other areas. Robert won the prize for his work on atoms and the nucleus. He shared the prize with another scientist named Rudolf Mossbauer, who also did important work in physics. But Robert's work was special because it helped people see inside atoms for the first time. Even after winning the Nobel Prize, Robert did not stop working. He continued to study atoms and tiny particles. He worked at Stanford for many years and helped build a big laboratory called SLAC. SLAC stands for Stanford Linear Accelerator Center. It is a place where scientists from all over the world come to study tiny particles. They use big machines called accelerators to study these particles. Robert was very proud of SLAC because it helped many scientists make new discoveries. Robert was not just a scientist. He was also a teacher. He taught many students at Stanford. He liked to help them learn and discover new things. He was very kind and patient with his students. They liked him very much and learned a lot from him. Some of his students became famous scientists too, thanks to his teaching. Robert also had a family. He was married to a woman named Nancy Givon. They had 3 children together. One of their children, named Douglas, became very famous too. Douglas is a scientist, but he studies different things. He studies how people think and how the mind works. He wrote a famous book called Gödel, Escher, Bach. This book is about math, art, and music. It won a big prize called the Pulitzer Prize. Robert was very proud of his son and his achievements. Robert Hofstadter was a great scientist. He worked very hard and made many important discoveries. He helped us understand atoms and the tiny particles inside them. He won the Nobel Prize for his work and helped build a big laboratory called SLAC. He was also a great teacher and a loving father. He died on November 17, 1997, but people still remember him and his work. His discoveries help scientists learn more about the world and how it works. Robert's story is inspiring. It shows that if you are curious and work hard, you can do great things. Robert was always curious. He asked questions and tried to find answers. He did not give up, even when things were difficult. He made mistakes, but he learned from them. He became a great scientist and helped the world. We can learn from Robert. We can be curious, ask questions, and work hard. Maybe one day we can do great things too, just like Robert Hofstadter.